Now that you're married, it's time someone informed you that you've taken on the most relationally challenging and difficult task that you'll ever be involved in, which is precisely why Christ is glorified in marriage and must be. I'm going to give you information critical to the foundation of a healthy marriage by showing you how to communicate in a healthiest way, how to be most intimate, and how not to let your finances determine how the other two are affected. We're going to base our foundations of Scripture and multiple sources from Christian counselors and psychologists like Dr. Eggridge, Dr. Chapman, Dr. MacArthur, and Dr. Lehman. I will establish foundational principles for you to stay rooted in a healthy marriage. During the minutes that follow, we will look at the Bible and research that demands us to start off on a sound footing toward a lifelong rewarding marital relationship by helping you expect nothing and give everything. Take note that Scripture is speaking to the individual's responsiveness to Christ and to Christ alone. So everything we do in order to bring glory to Christ. Christ hasn't called us to have expectation of the world around us. Rather, He has called us to an expectation of ourselves. We will see these expectations briefly in terms of marriage as it relates to communication, intimacy, and finances. The Bible is so extremely clear in how we are to communicate with each other in marriage. Communication with your spouse must be honest, filled with words of encouragement. Honesty doesn't equal hurtful. Let's understand that. It is never acceptable to be hurtful in your communication with your spouse. Know you both have feelings and opinions. And always remember, how you love is not how you're always going to be loved. So keep that in mind. Ephesians 4:25 tells us that not only should we communicate, but how we should communicate. Therefore, having put away malice and falsehood, let each one of us speak the truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. We must communicate truthfully with our spouse. Ephesians 4:29 tells us what the communication looks like. Let no corrupt talking come out of your mouths, but only so much as building up and edifying of the body. Colossians 4:6 goes on to say, tells us again what this communication should look like when it says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. It's always easy to act like a Christian or act like a good husband. It's not always easy to react like a Christian or a good husband. Dr. Eggridge ends this by saying, not only do men and women see differently, but they also hear differently. Next, we'll look at marriage in terms of healthy intimacy. Your healthy intimacy depends on trust. That is critical. That is the foundation of most of what your marriage relationship will be based on. Breaking the trust of your spouse in intimacy would deal a death blow to your marriage. It goes without saying that in order for a couple to have healthy intimacy, they must understand in a monogamous nature. Once you've defiled this trust, it will never be the same as it once was. Never. Husband and wife must be intimate with each other regularly. They must seek to meet each other's needs, not just the needs of themselves. Proverbs 5:18 says, let your fountain be blessed and rejoice in the wife of your youth. Hebrews 13:4 reiterates this point when it exclaims, let marriage be held in honor among all, and let the marriage bed be undefiled. John MacArthur has said of 1 Corinthians 7:4 that by the marriage covenant, each partner is given the right over the spouse's body. 1 Corinthians 7:4 actually says it this way, for the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, the husband doesn't have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Dr. Lehman ends it by saying this, we should think of our sex life as the thermometer of our relationship. Lastly, your finances will either drive you together or drive you apart. You must not allow your financial situation to be the focal point of your marriage. You must be wise in your decision making. Do not overextend yourself. I can't say that enough. Live on less. You will benefit from it in the future. Set aside a family day where money is spent on that specific day, on exciting times and exciting events. But don't allow yourself to continue to spend things throughout the week. That's going to be most damaging to your finances. Matthew 6:24 paints for us an overall arching picture when it says, no one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. Mark 4:19 goes on to explain what happens to the words of truth in Scripture when we allow the world to take a greater hold on us by saying, but the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches and the desires for other things enter in and choke the world, and it proves unfruitful. We end this section by saying this. We have to understand that some feel loved by receiving gifts. What that does not mean is that some feel rightly loved by receiving Mercedes or extravagant gifts. Dr. Chapman has said, gifts come in all sizes, colors, and shapes. Some are expensive and some are free. So it's very clear that Scripture has a lot to say about the foundations of a healthy marriage. Grace, and let me say this again, and don't walk away having forgotten this. Grace is at the center of a healthy marriage, and without it, your marriage, my marriage, our marriages will be on life support. The Bible is clear in how we maintain a healthy marriage through communication, through intimacy, and finances. I'll leave you with this thought. At no other time are we most like Christ than when we function under the marital unit designed by God. Men and women are made for each other, and we can live in fulfilled marriages even after the fall. But it will be only by His grace that you show grace to your spouse.